Welcome to Inspire Saratoga, a show that highlights the people and stories that make our home a place of strength, inspiration, and success. I'm Michael Kurkowski, physical and mental performance coach and resident of Saratoga Springs. And in this show, my mission is to connect with the great people who also call this place home, hear about their work and what they do for this town, and share their insights and experiences in health, wealth, and happiness for you, my neighbors. Thank you for joining me wherever you are in town. Let's dive in. We're rolling. All right, man. Give me a 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Inspire Saratoga, everybody. Dr. Ann, so good to see you. I've been so pumped to have you on, so thank you so much for coming.
I know. Thanks so much, Mike. It's been great to see you again and be here. So thank you for inviting me.
It's been a long time. I think I met you, it was like 6 years ago when you first came
Yeah.
into the studio. Is that about right?
Yeah, probably. Kettlebell. Yes.
Yes, exactly. No, we
Yes, that was it was a fun time. I loved it. And then my body told me, "Oh no, I don't think you can do this anymore." So nothing against kettlebells, just my aging body wouldn't let me do it anymore.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's but no, I remember when I met you and then knew about the work that you were doing. I was always fascinated by your work. So to have you on and really dive into everything that you've done, I've been really excited about having you on here. So
Thank
to kick
you.
this off though, as a resident of Saratoga, how
Yeah.
did you come to this area? Are you from here? Did you come
No.
here? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Queens, New York. Sometimes the accent still comes out when I get super passionate about things. And I lived there, until my 20s, and then got married and we moved out to Long Island, where my husband was from. And then I was in private practice out there. I wasn't a yoga teacher yet at that point in my 20s and all that, but I was a psychotherapist and hadn't gotten into the somatic psychotherapy yet because I was early in my career. You don't get trained in that in graduate school. So we were out there and we both wanted a change of life. He always loved the Adirondacks and wanted to get out of the private practice that he was in. And we were like, all right, new adventure. We had 3 kids. They were young and we moved them up. Neither of us knew anything about this area, didn't know anyone here, but he came up for a job and it was my opportunity because it was interesting at that point. My youngest was 4 and my twin boys were 8 and my daughter was 4. And at that point I said, if we move up there, my dream was to immerse myself in my yoga training, specifically, not just becoming a yoga teacher, because before we moved up here, I had started training as a yoga teacher, but I was really interested in yoga therapy and yoga therapeutics, which is really the somatic and really the first somatic therapy is like what I like to call yoga therapy. And so when we moved up here, we had a deal. I was like, okay, you go and start this other job and I need to take a couple of years before I reopen my psychotherapy practice because I didn't want to open it in the same way. I wanted to work differently. I wanted to work in a somatic way, in a more embodied way with my clients, because that is what I was discovering. And what I was discovering was really a missing link in mental health training altogether. And I was kind of discouraged with the field, at that point. I had been in the field about 10 years at that point, and I was pretty discouraged. I was like, I have to find another way. I knew something was missing. I wasn't getting to the holism of working with a person, and I was really interested in holistic, integrative care.
Yeah. What was the missing link? Was it something specific that you saw was missing, or was it more of like there's this feeling that there's something that's not completely bringing it all together?
Yeah, so when I was first trained, because I've been a psychotherapist now for 35 years, like a long time. So I was one of those who went right from undergrad. I graduated early from undergrad in 3 years and went right into graduate school. So I was already in the field from age 18. I was in counseling and social work and then went for my master's in social work. And at that time, we were still being trained in a more what we call psychodynamic fashion, which is really understanding a human through the relational context, where the relationship of therapist and client was really the most important thing. And we had a lot of great emphasis on attachment and relationship and all of that. And so I was so happy to at least be schooled in that way, but we still never talked about anything with the body. But I was introduced at the time to something called Gestalt therapy. And that's a really old form of therapy developed by Fritz Perls that most people don't know about, but it was the first body-based psychotherapy. And I was really interested in it. So when I finished graduate school, I went on for postgraduate training in that specific form of therapy. And then, long story short, what ended up happening, even though I was working in that fashion some more, where I was at least inquiring with my clients about the body, what started happening out in the world in the 90s is managed care came in, insurance came in, and therapy, there was a big push for therapy to be verified, meaning that they wanted to know exactly goal-oriented therapy, wanted to know what was happening, how were we going to measure the success of that. So to do that, we had to go and really adopt all the cognitive behavioral therapies, um, like CBT and DBT, because they are time limited and they're goal oriented and they're measurable. So what happened with that is we moved away from a lot of the psychodynamic work, a lot of the more holistic work, a lot of the more human relational component, and we moved to really the mind, just the mind and cognition. And for me, I was already working in another way, so it didn't really affect the way I was working so much, but it left me really considering like, wow, look at this. We're moving even further away from the human in a holistic sense, especially the body and the recognition of what does the body have to offer us as far as our self-awareness. And we're moving to like really deconstruct even more and more and reduce down even more and more a human just to what they're thinking. And I was like, wow, that doesn't feel complete to me. So at the same time that that was happening was when I was immersed in my own yoga practice. And I came out of that and I was so transformed myself that I needed to learn more. So that's where I became a yoga teacher. And when I was in my 200-hour training, I remember, and that wasn't around here, that was in Connecticut because I was still living on Long Island. Remember my teachers saying like, what does everyone want to do with this? And I sat there and I was like, I don't want to teach at all. I just want to merge my two worlds. I want to bring the body into psychotherapy in
Sure.
this holistic fashion, and that's why I'm here. But of course, long story short, anyone knows me here. I've been in the community almost 20 years, and I've been teaching yoga for 18, almost 19 of those 20 years, and it's my greatest love and passion. So when I thought I'd never teach, well, that was absolutely wrong because I love to teach. And so anyway, I merged those two worlds is what I did because right after that, I went on to yoga therapy training. And that was an immersion in somatic awareness training through the holism of the body and through in yoga therapy, we call it the Panchamaya yoga system, which is understanding a human in all these different spheres, mental, emotional, spiritual, even connection to others, so we look at the human being as a holism, and that fit very much in that old Gestalt form that I was trained in to begin with. So beginning to view a human as more than their thoughts and even engaging in what else was available to them in altered states of consciousness, like meditation, when they go into yoga class and they feel something is transforming. I want to know about that. And so all of that led me, oh boy, into so many other schoolings, my mindfulness training. And then tons and tons of yoga therapy trainings. Then after that, in particular, restorative yoga and restorative yoga therapeutics. And then all of that led me back to school, where I went back for my PhD in psychology, but it was in transpersonal psychology, a concentration in transpersonal psychology, which fits in the holism again, looking at a human through a holistic realm. And that's where I really concentrated on embodiment and somatic
Right.
therapy and research as well. So that kind of leads me on this whole 20-year path, which has been pretty fulfilling and amazing to me. And being able to work with humans and bodies in
Yeah.
this way has been my passion.
I love it. Yeah. Was this bridge of working with yoga and really like a physical performance, connecting it with the psychological side, was that a pioneer thought? Did you know anybody else really at that time who was trying to bridge this gap? Or was it more of
Um,
like a individual, like, I feel like this is something I need to explore, even if I don't have a lot
yeah.
of like examples around there of this?
Yeah, well, during that time, Peter Levine, who most people are aware of with his brilliant work of somatic experiencing, was developing somatic experiencing at that time. And I was certainly immersed in his work, meaning through his readings, his books, and everything else. The piece that was interesting to me is that I wanted to know more about our physiology and our anatomy. So what was happening for me is, as a psychotherapist, I was finding that at the time, a lot of the trainings have changed now. Even his work has incorporated a lot of physiology now and has changed. But at the time, it didn't incorporate. I was already a yoga teacher, and I was already going into my yoga therapy training, so it didn't incorporate enough of the anatomy for me, and the physiology, and where the yoga therapy training really brought me into the human body as a whole. And I love to teach people about actually what is happening on a physiological level, on a neurobiological level in their body when certain emotions arise, when certain memories arise, when their energy gets depleted, what are their holding patterns in their body, and where is that actually, in what muscle, in what organ of the body. So I love to get into all of that. I kind of have a little thing here in my office where I call it the talking organs, where I say, like, I say to them, well, may I take what you just said and reframe it through your internal body, because, like, this is what's happening now with that event.
Yeah.
So I love to teach people from the inside out or from the bottom up.
I love that. I want to ask you about really somatic. I'm always fascinated by like words that we often think we hear a lot, so we know, but actually don't understand the meanings behind it. But what you were just saying about the body, I didn't realize this specifically with like organ health until I got into a program from a guy named Sifu Singh who does a mind boxing program,
Mm,
which is kind of like a very Tai Chi, and different sounds that you make in posture actually affects different organs that you have in the body. And I was like
so
fascinated
great.
by this for like digestion and like liver. This goes more to and it's hard to like as a layman or like if you're just ignorant to it to really fully understand this whole vehicle that we walk around in is so complex that different, things can really, from our thoughts to our stresses, can affect all different areas of the body.
It's
And I was already a coach for years and years teaching people in strength, like thinking I understood the body. This was like a whole nother degree of education that I got from that.
That's right. I love it. And that's great. And the ancient yogis, why I say the ancient yogis were the first somatic therapists, because they may not have had all the fancy terms that we have for, all of our anatomy, physiology, and our autonomic functioning and all that, but they had their own words for it. And one of the things they always knew was sound, right? There's a sound for every chakra of the system. And I just said to my class on Tuesday, I just said to my Tuesday class, let out whatever sounds your body wants to make and trust that no words are needed. Sounds are the words of the body.
Love it. Yeah. So just as a definition of it, like somatic psychotherapy, often we think like somatic is more like from the body, I believe. And then psychotherapy, we often
Mhm.
think of the thought. What technically is like somatic psychotherapy, and why is this the
Yeah.
approach that you think a lot of people should like start with in like their healing journey?
Mhm. Yeah, so somatic, anything somatic means, soma means the body. So somatic psychotherapy means that we are centering the body for information about the self. So we are using information from your body on a sensory level and on an autonomic level, so on a nervous system level and a sensory system level, meaning our sensations, to gain access to self-awareness. So rather than going from the top down, which is, oh, tell me what you're thinking, and tell me about yourself through your thoughts. I want to know about my clients through their sensory body. I want to know what their body actually senses and takes in through the world around them. I want to know what it's like to sit with me and be with me. Are they, there may be words I say that leave them feeling really present with me, and then there may be words that leave them feeling kind of distracted or far away. And I watch for those moments because their body is telling me that, not because they even know it. Like I had someone this morning who I said certain words and I could tell her eyes sort of glazed away a bit. And I said, hey, I said, do you feel like you're still with me? And she's like, oh no, I got a little fuzzy there for a moment. I was like, yes, your eyes told me that. So how about now? Are you back with me now? Yeah, she's back with me now. So we watch for those micro movements that the body is telling us as well, communicating, the body's communicating that we in our natural day to day, going around day to day, that we don't pay attention to because we're so consumed with our thoughts that we lose our way feeling connected to our body. So there's the difference. Somatic psychotherapy makes the body just as important as thoughts and feelings in the room. And we come from a place, or at least my training comes from a place, a theory called embodied cognition, which it's actually a neuroscience term that combines philosophy, it combines biology, and it combines like neurobiology to understand, and cognition, to understand that sensations in the body, thoughts and emotions are never separate. So
Okay.
that's like one teaching right there, that if we are to have a thought, we can immediately know that in that moment there's an emotion that has come along and a physical sensation, whether we recognize it or not. So my job with my clients is to make sure in every moment that they are aware of all three. It's like a beautiful little triangle, feeding each other at every moment. So I make sure that they're aware of all three of those things, so that my intention when they leave my office is that they are going to have a self-awareness that comes not just from their mind, but from inside as well, which is really empowering. So somatic psychotherapy at the end of the day leaves someone feeling much more empowered and much more in line with their self agency, meaning like, hey, I know myself not just here, but I know I can feel something else. I can actually sense something else in my body. Kind of like, that's what I loved about the kettlebells when I was able to do them still, right? Is that I could feel my strength, right? So I was embodying my muscular strength, but I was also embodying like, hey, I did this.
Yeah.
Like I did this, I had agency over this, I lifted that, I did this, and that from the work you do, how important that is, that physiology, and how important that lands in someone's self-concept, right? Someone's idea of themselves. But here we're taking the therapy end, and we're bringing that same empowerment by bringing in the body. It's like, it's like, oh, almost like workout for the body, mind, and the heart, all together.
That's so fascinating. Yeah, it's I mean, I think practices like hard style kettlebell training or yoga, things that don't just get the muscles working, but it's really a nervous system,
Yes.
like kind of focus on there. You feel it different. It almost like, you feel stronger leaving it than just, burning out the muscles. So it's a different feeling. There's like an athletic component that the whole body's working together. So I think some practices are very good of going into that. But as you're speaking, and I almost think of it like how we communicate, right? If we have a thought and then we speak that, but if your body is not aligned with that, like you can tell that, yeah, that's not really what I mean, or like there's something that's not fully aligned with that. And that's why we say like body language is the number one thing of how we communicate, because you can't hide that. You can say things and try and get away with it, but I would assume the kind of the same thing with therapy. Like you can try and talk your way or think your way out of a thinking problem, but the body is going to be the one that is really like the ultimate truth serum.
Absolutely. And that's a great word, like that you said, that the body is that truth serum. I tell my folks, your body will always speak the truth. Now, whether we listen or not is another story. And the reason that it's so very important to include in all forms of therapy is because of the fact that, we understand, and I think everyone agrees to this right now, we understand that any distressing events, any traumatic events, whatever you want to call them, I call them any events that dysregulate our nervous system on any level, um, there is a physiological effect, right? Our autonomic nervous system causes sensory changes and causes neuromuscular changes too. So when we get stressed out, or when we get overwhelmed and we feel like we have to curl up in bed, there's a whole neurobiological response happening in our whole system, in our organs, everything from our deep internal or interoceptive body to our muscles and our joints and our bones, everything, our fascia, right? I teach a class in the community on myofascial release through yogic movements. And people are amazed when they come out of there of how their nervous system changed. And I said, well, of course, because your fascia is wrapped around your nerve endings as well. So it's incredible how they feel different. They feel transformed. They feel like they've had therapy when they come out of that yoga class. So this is why it's so very important to work with the body, because our clients you can change a thought around, right? But if you change a thought around, if I have a thought that has, let's say I spoke about something in therapy that was an old event that was pretty, hyper arousing for me, right? Pretty sympathetically charged, like an old trauma. So, and let's say I've been sitting there the whole time with my back body in a ball of tension, and my heart collapsed, right? And that was never addressed in session with me. Well, then I've just talked about that whole thing, and I've just left the therapy office with the same physiology. And guess what? The same autonomic nervous system dysregulation. And I have no idea why I can't get that memory out of my mind then, or have no idea why I still feel so angry about that event then when I leave, right? Now, the difference is if we match let the body's truth, if someone's talking to me about that and their shoulders and their chest is concave and they're tense like that, and we release that at the same time as that memory is being talked about or being shared, or components of it, now all of a sudden our whole neurobiology has had a chance at a different experience while that memory was taking place.
Mhm.
So when we
So it's like a
leave,
reinforcement of the insight or the awareness.
it's a new neural pathway actually when we change it. Yeah, because then when the person leaves, I will give them some awareness, like little bit of homework. I say, next time you have that thought, I want you to immediately check in to see if your shoulders and your chest has gone concave again. And what would it be like to open that up, place a hand to that area and be like, it's okay. You don't, this is now, it's not then anymore. Like my body does not have to respond right now. It's safe right now. It doesn't have to do that. Yeah, so there's the compassion that kind of comes into it. So we're really creating new neural pathways when we change the physiology in response to the traumatic memory.
So in the time, 20 years of yoga practice, 35 years really in, practice of, psychology and therapy from there. What are the common struggles that people come to you with and that they're struggling with? And has that changed or evolved like a lot from when you first like,
Mm.
started to what, common culture and kind of current culture is now? Have you seen a big difference in that?
Yeah, it's a great question because, my goodness, when I think 35 years is a long time, so
Yeah.
I do specialize in working with folks that have issues with body image and eating disorders and also trauma. However, I work with a full range of clientele as well, and I would say that it's interesting. Through the years, let's say I would say the last 10 years has been the most um, impact, of course, as we know with COVID and everything else, has been the greatest impact has come externally, I would say, in the last 10 years. And not that I ever work with someone without including the macro as well. So I always like to include sort of what's going on around us, because there's an energy that we're taking in around us as well, or we're either taking in too much of it, not enough, how do we boundary what comes in around us as well. So I would say, COVID was a time where it was really, of course, hard for all of us to not take in and absorb, the messages, whatever fear, whatever non-fear, whatever there was, the us, the them, and there's been a culture of that since, a lot of the agitation in the world and a lot of the heaviness, no matter what, a lot of this division that people have felt, and a lot of the non-belonging has gotten pretty intense. So I would say isolation, feeling disconnected has been a major theme, I would say, of the last 15 years. And I really liken that to, we have these wonderful things that have come our way, advanced technology that is supposed to leave us feeling more connected. But as we know, when people overuse that, even in working from home, that has happened so
Mhm.
much, the sense of disconnection. And then, therefore, what does that lead to? It leads to a lot of down regulation in our nervous system, which is what leads to depression. So, a lot of depression. And then the flip side of that, a lot of anxiety, feeling like people don't know, then they're overstimulated, then out in the world. So there's been a lot of this disconnection, non-belonging, not knowing how to find, the people that feel supported to them. I would say that that's the biggest trend that I've noticed differently in the last like 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, Anne, because I've seen so many things of like, block out the world, just focus on yourself. Yeah, that sounds really nice in theory, but in practice and how small the world has become with being able to connect so easily, like, yeah, I think it's more about how to manage it rather than like, block it out completely because you can. It's just not like a practical thing to do. It sounds good in theory, but like, yeah, that's maybe like a week you go over and you
Yes.
unplug. But as far as living your life of getting in there, yeah, a better way is to, manage it, I think, just like
That's
anything in
right.
work. Yeah. But with the, I'm curious with the, body image disturbance and kind of like this dysmorphia aspect and kind of where I think of it really comes into poor self-worth or poor self-image
Mm,
from there.
yeah.
Has that changed or evolved a lot over like the past decade with, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody knows with the social media aspect of it and the comparison things from here. How have you seen that,
Yeah.
change and evolve?
It's it's always been there, however, it's increased. Oh my goodness. Even in these years that I've been in practice, it has increased a hundredfold, because of the focus on image. I mean, we have these, social media accounts, I tell all my clients, can either be a really positive thing because you know how that algorithm works. If you follow all the wonderful accounts out there that are body protective and self-protective, you can feel great on it. I open my account and I feel great on it. I don't ever feel distress with it because I don't follow those kinds of accounts. So if people follow those kinds of things, it can lead you into a really dark place. And again just said this to my class the other day. Comparison is, the and self-judgment. And you're right in saying that it all originates from self-worth. But guess what? If we keep exposing ourselves to those things, it's going to continuously erode self-worth. So we won't ever have a chance at building that. So it's really important, because our sense of sight is our most overused sense organ. So it's so very important not to engage with our sense of sight so much. That's why in yoga, I ask my clients here in the office as well to close their eyes a lot without taking down our gaze, closing the eyes, here at least a couple of minutes throughout the day to go in. All we will do is always see outward, and we're never going to be able to become aware of our inner experience if we're so visually outwardly focused. So it's a big one.
That's
Big.
fascinating. Yeah. Have you ever read the book Blue Mind by Wallace Nichols?
No, no.
He had a fascinating thing. It's all about our connection with water and like happiness and
Gosh.
fulfillment. And like he talks a lot about why people who live on islands are much more calm. Like, so it's a very interesting book on that. But he talks about long gazing and like
Mm,
looking out like deeply into the ocean or like over the mountains. And it's like there's a reason why like the most expensive real estate is like ocean view or up on the mountains that have big views. There's a psychological and biological response to that because so much of the sight we have is right in front of our face or in our own four walls, which can cause more anxiety and stress because you think everything's closing in on you. Where if you go and you gaze out, like even the most stressed out, challenged person can go sit and just look out at the ocean and be very content from there because there's some like, yeah, everything's going okay. Like everything's working in nature the way that it's supposed to be. And I thought it was very
I
similar to
love
kind of like what you were
that.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. I love that long gazing. It reminds me of like a meditative, gaze where we just set our sight on a focused image for a long period of time like that. So that's beautiful. I love that. It makes me think, when I first moved up here, I moved to in area like where my home was kind of locked in a cul-de-sac, and it was nothing wrong with it. It was a lovely place, but I felt very entrapped there in that little. And then about 9 years ago, I moved over by the lake, and my whole world changed. And
Nice.
I do that long gazing every single day over at the lake now, and it's quite beautiful. And it really does immediately. I always say, as soon as I walk in my house, I'm like, boop, I drop immediately, can drop any stress of the day.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So, is there any, you mentioned like with like a practice, like if you feel yourself saying those words, be aware of your body, like what happens if you do that, which is a beautiful insight and practice. Is there any other like kind of general practices of that people can work on that kind of mind-body connection to, kind of help them with these small things? I know this is very individualized,
Mhm.
basis, but is there any kind of go-tos that you have for people who are trying to work on getting more of this mind-body connection?
Yeah, I just did a little reel about this today, about stopping and checking in during the day. And I have a little words that I like everyone to think about using is if you stop, let's say midway through your morning, and just take a moment. Self-touch is really super important. I write about this in my next book that's coming out, which is a somatic healing book. Why self-touch is so important, because touch is our first sense organ to develop. Amazing. And our body physiologically, if we close our eyes for a second, doesn't know the difference between our touch and somebody else's, we still feel that sense of sort of coming home with our touch. So I just say, drop in for a moment, mid-morning, give a little touch, either hands to the heart or even holding your hands together, and just ask the questions like, what has this morning so far been like inside my body? Like, what's this morning been like inside? Like, was my stomach sick this morning? Has this morning been like really calm and inside my body feels like things feel really chill? Or has this morning been so hectic where already I feel the knot in my
Yeah.
stomach, So if we just ask that question 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening, what have these last few hours been like inside my body, not in here, right? Because we all know what it's been like in the head, right? We could all go and complain to someone or whatever else, but I want to know what it's been like inside. Did it shift your energy in a certain way the morning or the afternoon, the evening? Do you feel extra tired today? Do you feel extra tense? Is your body aching by nighttime? Does your body feel really free and strong? Because you just worked out with Mike,
Exactly.
like what's going on? Like, what's this morning or afternoon or evening been like inside my body?
Yeah, I love that. So, and you're so awesome. I know I got to get you out of here soon because, and so we'll have to do a part two at some point because I have a
Yes,
thousand more
yeah, let's
questions
do it.
to ask. I do have some quick fires I want to roll with you with,
Sure.
just for some fun to kind of close out here. Early riser or night owl?
Oh boy, it's changed. I'm an early riser now.
Okay. Do you have a favorite hour of the day?
Yeah, my mornings between 6 and 8 when I do my practices, and I go really quiet and slow in the morning.
Window or aisle seat when you travel?
Total aisle. My body needs I want room. I
I
want
want to
I want a
stretch
man
out.
I want a mansplain. What is it,
Man spread.
mansplain? I want to do that. I want to be free. My body needs to be free. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Sweet or savory?
Oh, savory for sure.
Savory. Okay. Do you have a
Yeah.
go-to like favorite savory snack?
I love well, I guess this would be a mix of sweet and savory because I love like the mix of nuts and chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Love it.
caramel.
Beautiful. Okay. What's the best advice that you ever received?
Oh boy, it's probably the very yogi advice, which is trust the process.
What's the worst advice you ever received?
Uh, think that through some more. I'm
Oh,
not a
that's a book right there. I could write. I love that. Okay. Last one, really quick. Who inspires you the most in your life?
Oh gosh, I'm going to say at this point, it may sound corny, but I'm going to say my daughter right now, my 23-year-old daughter. She inspires me like crazy. And, I always say, boy, I wished I was the young woman, could have been the young woman then that she is, now. So she really does inspire my 23-year-old self.
Love it. Love it. Dr. Ann, thank you so much. I really
Thank
appreciate you coming
you.
on. If people want to check out more, you got a lot going on in the area and online. What's the best place that they can go and see everything that you're
Yeah, they
doing?
can check out my website, which is An Embodied Life, so anembodiedlife.com. And then you can find me at Yoga Mandali as well, teaching my classes and workshops. And yeah, lots of free stuff I have on my website for people to explore, lots of resources. So hop on there, lots of practices as well that are for free they can download. And yeah, I'm here in the community, so come find me.
I love it. Thank you. And till next time. Okay. This is
Yeah,
not goodbye. It's see you later. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
awesome. Thank you.
Listeners, thank you so much. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.